You're now listening to Mark Who 42 from the Whoniverse and beyond.
Mark Who 42 is proud to have Famous Faces and Funnies. This is a huge, mega comic book store. I mean, they just have literally tons and tons of comic books, novelties, everything. They're located off of 3020 New Haven Avenue in West Melbourne. And if you want to give them a call and just let them know Mark Who 42 sent you, it's 321-259-3575. But this thing is just a huge, I mean, you've seen comic book stores and nothing against them, but you've seen them, you know, these tiny little shops, and they have comic books and they have merchandise and memorabilia and such like that. This place is like the best term I can put is the Costco of comic book shops. So you go from one store and there's another section, and it's just huge. They have Funkos, they have tons and tons and tons of stuff in there. I mean, it's hard to explain, but if you have any geekdom out there, Famous Faces and Funnies have got it covered for you, from Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, everything. And also Rick is the guy who runs it, and all the team over there, nice, friendly people. Definitely want to check out our friends at Famous Faces and Funnies in the West Melbourne area if you're out there.
Hey guys, it's Chad Rook from War for the Planet of the Apes, and you are listening to Mark Who 42.
Welcome to Mark Who 42. That's right. This is the show that you want to be listening to. We are the Doctor Who podcast here on Krypton Radio. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. With me today, we've got
Christian Basil.
Zon Kiros.
We also have Iggy Matthews, but she's quiet.
I hate doing that because I don't know who's doing what. I'm like, all right. Okay, because I was literally about to say my name right before Scion, and he spoke, and I'm like, see, this is why I don't do it.
Say my name.
Yeah.
All right.
And Iggy Matthews. All right. Okay. Yay!
And for today's show, our guest panelist is Scott Vigay, or as some of you may know him, Dr. Geek. Hello, Scott.
Hello, everyone.
We've had you on the show before, but tell them a little about yourself.
Oh, sure. I'm Dr. Scott Vigay, the creator of Dr. Geek's Laboratory of Applied Geekdom, the full-cast audio show dedicated to STEM outreach.
Okay. And you do some Dr. Geek Laboratory events around Florida, don't you?
Yes, we have the Dr. Geek Science Fair that we take to schools and libraries and other events where kids can do virtual experiments and learn about science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And it's really kind of fun. We use science inspired by fiction. So we'll talk about transporters, warp drive, replicators, you name it, we've talked about it.
And in this show, we actually have a great place for you to talk a little about how fiction and science go together.
Oh, yes.
Yes. This is our review show for Series 10 of Doctor Who, Episode 11, World Enough and Time. And I just want to start off today's review by doing a little poetry for you. And I feel that I have gained your trust as Mark Who 42 to put a little culture in this. This poem is called...
Oh, wait. I'm getting the popcorn out and sitting back. I need to hear this.
This poem is called To His Coy Mistress, and it's by Andrew Marvell. Had we but world enough in time. See what I did there? This coyness, lady, were no crime. We would sit down and think which way to walk and pass our long love's day. Though by the Indian Ganges side... Shouldst rubies find I by the tide, of Humber would complain I would, love you 10 years before the flood. And you should, if you please, refuse, till the conversion of the Jews. My vegetable love should grow, vaster than empires and more slow. 100 years should go to praise, thine eyes on thy forehead gaze. 200 to it. Oh, stop it. 200. Okay, I'll stop. But basically, This is the poem where the title of this episode came from. And the subjects are about living, time and brevity, love, infatuation and crushes.
Yeah, they nailed it.
Love, relationships. This all ties in with what this episode dealt with, and I thought I'd bring that out. Okay, so it's a beautiful poem. You can find it at thepoetryfoundation.org. They even have a way you can listen to someone reading it. Yeah, conversion of the Jews, conversion of the people. And so does that mean that Mondasians are Jewish? Are they my people? I don't know.
That metal thing was a yarmulke on there?
It was a yarmulke.
Is that what that guy was playing with?
Dreidel, make you letters.
It doesn't make you stop feeling the pain. It just makes you not care. That sounds Jewish to me. That totally sounds
It only
like
hurts once.
All right. Okay.
The views and opinions on this show are not necessarily those of anybody on here.
All right. We normally start off the show's review with a rating of the scale from 1 to 10. And usually I let everyone go first and then I go. But I'm going to go first just because I want to. And this may shock a lot of you because, I've been giving 8s, I've been giving 7s. This series.
Brace yourself, boys. This is not going to be pretty.
This episode, I give it 10. I give it 10. And if there was no promotion of this episode, if we had not known John was coming back, I would crank it up to 11.
Yes.
I would totally do a Spinal Tap on this and crank it up to 11 because I thought the Ainley homage of costuming and disguise was perfect. And had I not known Johnson was there, maybe I wouldn't have got it. But that's my opinion. We'll talk about all this later. Let's go to our guest, Scott. Scott, what do you give it 1 to 10?
1 to 10, I would give it a solid 9. I'm right there with you. This episode was fantastic. I'm just waiting to see how it ends. Me personally, I'm treating the last 2 episodes as one story. So I'm right there with you. This is fantastic. The moment of the reveal of John Sims as the master with the goatee and everything, it could not be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Iggy.
I'm going to give it a 9 as well. And I really, I like the kind of, like the old school James Bond, where he reaches across his face and pulls the mask. And I'm like, ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I liked it. I enjoyed it. Yeah. Is Christian still snoring? Like, no more poetry, okay? Somebody not
Hey, don't, there was a Christmas episode like in year 2 where I sang Christmas at Ground Zero. So
well, that just makes ears bleed, honey. That's not.
Don't complain about the poetry or I'll sing.
Back to that.
Zion.
I give this a 10. I have to give it a 10.
Ooh.
I have to give it a 10.
Wow.
And not only a 10, I am willing to say, and I'm on record for this, that it is the best of the modern series.
I agree
so far.
You. I agree. Maybe not the best of the modern series, but it's the best in a damn long time.
I'm willing to take that.
I don't know about the best of the series. I haven't thought that through. Christian.
I thought long, hard through it.
The needle kind of wavers between 7 and 8.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm taking a little bit.
I kind of expected this for some reason. I had this in my mind that Christian would go a little lower, and if we had Patty on the show, he would say 0. So let's.
Okay.
These are facts.
Didn't I yesterday after watching this? I wrote to you, "Whoa," and then I wrote a subtle little note after. But of course, I know exactly what Patty is going to think of it and where he's going to find it wrong. And every point that he pointed out that he didn't like were things I knew he wasn't going to like. But you give it a 7 to an 8.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it started off in a big wave. Of course, the opening scene was, okay, this is a new twist because usually those things are at the end. Now it's at the beginning. So we already know it's going to happen. And from what we understand, this could be something completely different. The direction of Missy as far as a device where she's going to, the master has issues, whether it's finally time to turn sides. I don't think so, but I kind of like it and I don't. I kind of think this is an interesting device, but I don't like the direction. I just think the Master is a purist. I don't think he would waver. He might do it as an advantage to get over the Doctor, but never go, oh, you know what? I think this time I was wrong. And I think there was a lot of great stuff here to pay homage to the classic series.
Yeah.
And I think it was just slightly poorly executed. I think there was a lot of good stuff going on. I think they could have done better.
Because I remember you giving a previous episode a 10 saying this was a classic episode.
This was a
Eaters of Light.
Eaters of Light, yeah.
Eaters of Light, yeah. Because the episode represented everything that was great about the classic series, and they used that template from Rona Monroe into the new series.
Yeah.
I could easily see the Eaters of Light sitting somewhere in a classic series story. That would be a story that I said, listen, if you're a little bit hesitant about the classic series, if somebody was being introduced and said, I want to watch the old series, but I don't know where to start or anything, and is there something in the new series that kind of emulates it? I would have said the Eaters of Light. That is the best story that emulates the best of what the classic Who was, and it had everything in it. This one, I liked it. I thought it was a strong start. I think it could have gone even better. I think they spent too much time on Bill. I mean, if this is the episode that's supposed to be the end-all, be-all, I understand where they were going with Bill on that, but I think there could have been a lot more at stake. I really think I would have expanded it exponentially and said, this is the episode. I've always thought that would be cool, is a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern moment.
Right. Yeah,
and I've said this in classic episodes. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Just for people who may not be familiar with this, William Shakespeare wrote a play called Hamlet. We all know about that. But also Tom Stoppard wrote kind of a spin-off called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is based on two characters who are very minor in the story, and the whole story revolves around them. Their lives are eventually going to end, and they take on a whole new character, and from in and out of the actual play Hamlet, these characters go in, interact, and then come back out, and then do their own play. What if this was taking place during the 10th planet? What if this was taking during the time where the first Doctor is meeting the Cybermen for the very first time? And oops, here's the 12th Doctor too. So if you're going to have two Masters, have two Doctors as well.
Aren't they kind of going that direction already? I mean, that's,
they're kind of going to it. They're foreshadowing where this is heading. But I thought that would have been a bigger stake. What if the two Masters were somehow involved for doing something to the Doctor in his first life?
There is a strong rumor that the first Doctor is going to be in the Christmas special, along with Peter Capaldi. So I think Christian's idea is exactly where they're headed. I think he's right, and I think that's how they're going to tie the next episode and the Christmas special all together.
Yeah, I mean, this the two-part finale and the Christmas story, I see as exactly as John Sims said, Genesis of the Cybermen.
Yep. In fact, shouldn't that have been the title?
Well, who knows if they're going to change the title for next week's episode. I don't.
No, but I think Christian's right though. I think that it's kind of that's where it's been headed, and I know what he means. A lot of time was spent on Bill, and I think that would have worked if we hadn't already known where this was headed.
Oh well, that's what I'm saying. At this point, at this juncture, I would have appreciated it more if they started it here. If that's what they're doing on the Christmas episode, okay, well, fine and dandy. But I'm looking at this episode by itself and looking at the potential that it could have been. If that's where they're heading, I think they're taking too long. I think going to the Christmas episode is taking way too long. I think it would have been cool to start it here, because then you could see all the influences. You got two Masters that are battling kind of in a way, right? We don't know if they're friend or foe or not, and especially we've seen the trailer for the next episode. It's hard to tell anymore if they're friend or foe. But they're at a critical point in the Doctor's life where he's going to regenerate for his very first time. And the 12th Doctor is got to make sure that the chess pieces are all fitting together, or else his timeline is all whacked out of shape.
Yeah.
And God only knows what's going on. We still don't have the answer of where the Master became Missy. We don't have that regeneration scene. We don't know where he got the additional lives. We don't know we just don't know anything. And that might be answered in the next two episodes.
Christian,
however,
we only had really one real
episode.
Regeneration sequence for the Master, and that was in Keeper of Traken. The TV movie, okay, maybe you could count that as a regeneration, but we don't show the Master regenerating.
You had John Sims regen.
I know we,
on
I know
screen.
we haven't seen the Master regenerating, but that's what I'm saying. I think one of the things I predicted, this might be a lead up to where Master becomes Missy. And I've been speculating a lot of things. Could have the Master pulled away some lives from the Doctor and gave it to
Yes, that was the theory we
yourself.
spoke about. Mm-hmm.
and then she's got new lives now. I mean, there's so much at stake. And if Moffat can package this in the next 2 episodes, I'll forgive him. Right now, I think the storyline should have started here. I think the stakes should have been brought up here.
As long as you don't strangle him, I'll be all right.
So basically, right now we have Genesis of the Cybermen, and is the next episode going to be Exodus of the Cybermen? Because it's typically how it works. We do not like the Cybermen.
So the show opens up with the Doctor trying to hold back his regeneration. And when I first saw that scene, I was thinking, wow, maybe all that talk about him dying all this time since he became blind and all that stuff and having regenerative energy in him was going to be played out. But then we went back in time, and so that still hasn't been proven.
Well, we don't know
John's
what's...
perfectly fine with.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great lead-in. That we already know that's going to happen. They've already made that prediction. We
Yes.
already know that
But
that's
not
going to take place.
prediction, that certainty.
Well, what I mean is, as far as him regenerating, first of all, beyond the I don't want to go, he was like, no. So something is bothering him about this particular regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what influence is taking place. We don't know how the Master or Bill are involved, but supposedly he looks like, I don't want to go.
Well, it's because
I
this has
don't
been
want
his best season, for him.
Possibly on that, but
Shots fired.
Yeah.
and I'm sure we probably won't see that until the Christmas episode. This is probably foreshadowing into that.
Did you guys have a problem with Missy calling herself Doctor Who?
No, I thought that was great.
No.
I was laughing hysterically. I was happy with that.
It is not only the fact that she called herself Doctor Who, but the fact is that now all of the new fans who said that his name is not Doctor Who, is just a doctor, can now shut up. And now say it's Doctor Who. In fact, can we just call him Doctor Who for the rest of the episode, please?
We got to be careful about that because Missy said, well, that's his name. And then, she pulled one of those, well, it was supposed to be a conversation piece. It's like, I just want to skip that preliminary, because everybody asked.
Yeah, she's streamlining it. I love the fact that she was streamlining.
So if this is something that, if this is a ploy, but I still see Bill as that character who kind of emulates the classic Whovians by asking all those questions that classic Whovians have been asking all this time and getting these little random answers. And here, of course, here's another one where is he the Doctor or Doctor Who? And now Missy just says, you know what? Who gives a rat's?
I also liked it because it makes kind of a little bit of fun of the end of the Matt Smith era where they were playing on that all, very, very heavily. And then, his name was going to change the course of the universe and all that sort of stuff. And here, Missy just sort of makes light of it. And I think that was fun. And it's very much in tone with the relationship that has developed between Missy and this Doctor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man crush.
The comedian in me wants to play that entire back and forth with the whole Doctor Who thing, have it on pause, and when my husband comes in and asks me, what are you watching? I want to press play. That's literally what I want to do. But, I'm glad that Zion mentioned that because literally I'm like, great, now everybody and their mom is going to be calling it, his name is Doctor Who. I'm like, it's not. Okay, you don't ever believe anything Missy says. Okay, just stop. You don't know anything. I've been watching this for far longer than you have. Sit down or go watch somewhere else away from me.
I did like how she called the companions the disposables. I thought that it was really funny
she
too.
Would.
And that was foreshadowing. That was total foreshadowing.
Yep.
Nardole didn't like it. He's just like, no, it's Nardole. I'm Nardole.
I think that was written and played well. That's what Missy would do if she were quote unquote Doctor Who. That's how she would treat her companions. They were like, well, I you know what? They're just here for the ride. They're just here for the fun of it. Nothing else.
These are my
behind.
fleshy shields in case you want to shoot at me.
You know how Matt Smith's character did on Day of the Moon, where he goes the legs, the nose, and Mrs. Robinson. It'd be like the hair and the round big guy or something.
Oh my god!
That would be. I would see that in her doing that.
All right. Oh, we have a lot to talk about in this episode, and you know what? We're going to take a little break and talk about it when we come back here on Mark Who 42 here on Krypton Radio.
By the way, this portion of Mark Who 42 was brought to you by Harley Quinn's Cosplay and Crafts, our new cosplay friend, Amelia Poole. Yep, yeah, I know the name's uncanny, but that's her real name. Go to markwho42.net, click on the icon, and you can use our promo code MarkWho42 on her Etsy page to get free shipping for many of her merchandise, including all of her wonderful pictures, to some of the handcrafted merchandise that she's making. She's just starting out, and she's going to be joining us at Icon 3 this Saturday, July 1st, at the Space Coast Convention Center. So you'll see us there at Mark Who 42. We'll mention more of that later on in the show. But we welcome Amelia Poole and her Harley Quinn Cosplay and Crafts team right here at Mark Who 42 of our family of sponsors.
And now we can go to commercial?
Yes, we can.
All right, we'll be right back.
Don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
And I'd like to say right now, Mark Who 42 is proud to have 9.9 Comics as a sponsor for our show. 9.9 Comics, if you're out in Brevard County, this is one of the places to go and visit. They've just started recently, and they're located off of 1284 Sarno Road in the Melbourne area. They're starting out, but I met Matt and the team, and they are just really, as far as customer service is concerned, phenomenal. It's a really great store. They were telling me about a point system, Mark, and forgive me, I'm not familiar with it, but that's where the 9.9 comes from. When you go to a comic book store, some comics are just laying out there loose and for everybody to read and such like that. And every time somebody picks it up, it kind of depreciates over time. Not in this store. Every comic is protected. In fact, you can't even read the comics. They're all protected for your pleasure. So if you want to keep these comics for longevity and possibly later on try to sell them to make money off of them, they have every comic sealed up and protected. It's just phenomenal. Not only that, but one of the things I love about this comic shop is they sponsor the Candlelighters of Brevard. Now, these folks are a nonprofit organization that take care of children in the Brevard area who are suffering from cancer. So if you want more information on them, go to www.candlelightersofbrevard.org. If you want more information about the charity that they sponsor, and definitely go on their Facebook site at 9.9 Comics. Can't miss it. Matt and the team are wonderful. Go visit them out there and tell them that Mark Who 42 sent you.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Briggs,
The voice of many monsters on Doctor Who.
and executive producer of Big Finish Productions. And I'm pleased to announce that Mark Who 42 Books have joined forces with Big Finish to bring you Big Finish Audio.
There's this fella who calls himself the Doctor, and he says he has saved me, and we are in his time machine.
You're right. I think I've broken something. What about you?
Yes, I'm fine, thanks.
I rather think I broke your fall.
Oh, sorry.
Mark Who 42 Books will now offer to bring you the best in Big Finish audio.
But why are they here?
How do you do?
I beg your pardon?
Oh, no need to. I'm the Doctor, and this is...
I am Leela.
By all means, please do come out to play, Doctor. I'm waiting for you.
To find where Mark Who 42 Books will be, go to markwho42.net or on their Facebook site at Mark Who 42.
What are you saying? They fizzled in somehow? Like the TARDIS?
Yeah, transmat from another dimension. The TARDIS doesn't fizzle. It's more of a...
Also go to markwho42.net and download my interview with the team.
You're executive producer at Big Finish Productions.
Correct.
Correct.
Is this a quiz?
Mark Who 42, taking you to the Whoniverse and beyond.
This is Michael Berryman, and you're listening to Mark Who 42.
Welcome back to Mark Who 42 here on Krypton Radio. We are talking about World Enough and Time, and it was a great episode. The ratings were great. And, oh wait, our chopper in the air? What's going on up there?
Well, hello, Mark. I am over here on the 42 chopper. I can see on this traffic line that we are backed up. It seems to be Cyberman crashed into a Dalek, and it's starting to turn a little bit explosive. So if you're trying to get to work on time, I'd recommend a different route, perhaps some back roads.
Well, thank you very much, Chopper in the Sky, Iggy. All right.
Okay.
Does anyone know what just happened there? Because I don't. Hi, I'm Mark Baumgarten, your host.
We have a chopper?
Yeah, we have a chopper. That's where I'm using
We don't
the
even have a budget to go out to dinner.
That's where the advertising money is going, for the chopper. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. With us, we, of course, have Christian Basil, Iggy Matthews, Zion Kiros, and our special guest, Scott Vigay of Dr. Geek's Lab. Dr. Geek, what is the address that people can find your website?
It's drgeeklab.com.
And what can they find there?
They can find all of our episodes of Dr. Geek's Laboratory, our audio show. They can also find discussion about everything that is science inspired by fiction. If you want to know about bionics, you want to know about flying cars, we're the spot to go to. And it's a lot of fun. And you can also find us on Facebook at Dear Geek Lab, or on Twitter at Dear Geek Lab. Or now we have a new thing called the Dr. Geek Think Tank, which is a Facebook group. If you want an in-depth discussion about science inspired by fiction, that's the place to go.
Well, we'll be asking you a question about science in a few moments. Now, it may feel like years, but it'll only be in a few moments. I think you know where we're going.
Doctor? What exactly?
We're going with that. I have a question for everybody. Is blue body paint getting cheaper this year? I mean, we've had a lot of bluish people on this season.
I was halfway expecting a concert with PVC pipes.
Toilet paper being rolled around. I really think there's a can sitting in the corner somewhere at the makeup and arts whatever in the BBC, and then everybody walks in and goes, "Is there any new monster we can come up with? We still have that blue paint from last week. Yeah, let's use that one."
It is on
Smurf it
the
up.
shelf. It's on the shelf right next to the green bubble wrap. Right. There.
This was the last of the petty cash.
Well, that's why they went with the Mondasian Cybermen, because they were cheaper to make. That's what they were doing.
We just went into a corner somewhere. Then we still have the blue paint from the End of the World episode. And we still have
Now, to be perfectly honest, I'm glad you brought that up, because it looks like the dive suit from the episode where they're like under the ice. It looks like they took that dive suit and just the basic Cyberman helmet and was like, that'll work. That'll work. Throw them out there.
But it was interesting. The blue guy, Missy, and he comes out, and the elevators are coming up to get a human life form. And, of course, he finds out that Bill is a human life form. And even though when the doctor comes out of the TARDIS and tries to save her life, she gets shot. She gets shot. Not only shot, she gets shot straight through, cauterized, so there's no blood. I'm assuming that's for children's television. They didn't want to...
It's children's television.
Well, they didn't want to show blood. They wanted creepiness. They wanted scariness, but they didn't want blood. So
Holy
they had
Bill Potts, Batman.
So it cauterized the wound, and she fell back.
Unrealistic expectations, okay? Nobody bleeds when they get shot. See, I told you, Billy.
Nobody bleeds? No, not even if your whole inside is disintegrated. And you have nowhere for the blood to go in that hole.
Real fast in there with that gun.
It's like a lightsaber gun, basically.
And on top of that, you will remain alive for at least 2 minutes after your heart has been completely annihilated.
Well, the doctor had to make his speech in the past, so they had to keep
Wait for me. Actually, I wanted to ask you this. Is there an actual proper name for these creatures of the blue complexion? Because what immediately comes to my mind was the first time that we initially saw a blue-complected alien, he was very offended in the fact that they were calling him blue. Okay,
right.
And then I'm sitting here and thinking about it. We were like, this blue guy, that's no different than saying this black guy right here. But, what's the name? What's the name?
Well, that's why I go with bluish. I don't want to say he's blue, but,
He's bluish? Like blackish? Like whitish?
Well, that's a TV show, isn't it? Isn't that a TV
I'm going to go back to playing with Dr. Geek's beakers over here.
Play with the beakers.
More poetry.
Play with the beakers.
I have a question. Did we ever find out why this ship was sitting on a black hole?
Not yet.
I'm waiting for Hans Reinhardt to show up and Maximilian just pop out of anywhere.
Right. Actually, I was thinking Impossible Planet and Satan's Pit. It was the same exact setup. Everything else was going into the black hole, and yet this ship was perfectly fine. And
but they had an explanation for Satan's Pit and the Impossible Planet. Here, I'm like, they just parked it from the black hole. Hey, it's cool.
I agree. There was no explanation, except that I guess Mondus was 400 miles below the top because it was obviously not in space. It was the spaceship was sitting on the planet Mondus. So I don't know. I don't know your answer.
You're really stretching this, dude. I'm waiting for.
Stretching it. This is a question for the other episode.
I will stretch any explanation to make
it would make as much sense as old Bob coming out there and start building the Cybermen himself. And it's just what I'm like. We just parked it right on the black hole and just said, great idea.
As long as it's voiced by Slim Pickens, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, me too. I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
but I just could not for the life of me. That would be like us building a house right next to a sinkhole. I'm like, why? 400-mile long ship, and you just decided you want to park it right next to the event horizon. Really? Okay, makes sense.
Well, I mean maybe the black hole had some reason for why it had to come back and get energy from Earth in the 10th planet. I don't.
Well, the only explanation, and I use that term loosely, that I think they had was that they wanted to purposely take advantage of the time dilation.
And I wanted to talk about the time dilation with Dr. Geek himself, because I saw that. I mean, when they were down in the hospital part, and we're skipping around the episode, they went down to the hospital and they were looking at the TV monitor and it was showing a picture of the control room and everyone was frozen. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, why are they showing us still? And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. Black hole, gravity, time, they're moving slower than they are down where Bill is. And I thought, wow, they got the science right.
It's reverse time dilation in a sense, because, isn't it supposed to be the closer that you get approaching the speed of light, the slower time goes?
And that's what it was doing.
Yes.
That's what it was doing.
No, but the bottom of it was going faster than upwards.
Slower in the control room, which was right near the black hole. The hospital was 400 miles below.
The way they put it, I thought that the hospital was closer to the black hole than
the hospital was at the bottom of the ship. Remember the can?
Okay.
Remember the can?
Okay, we got it right.
But
right,
Scott,
you could see the black hole from the skylight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, right.
So Scott, talk us through time dilation and black holes.
Oh, sure, no problem.
All right, do we just bring
That's why I had him on the show without knowing about it.
All right, so
class is in session.
All right, so here is the deal with that. In order to have time dilation or to warp it, you need a lot of gravity. Well, the one thing that can certainly warp space-time is a black hole. And then you have a situation where time is relative to the person experiencing it. Our concept of time is a man-made construct. It's our way of explaining the passage of events, cause and effect. But depending on how you look at it, or if you have the ability to have like a bird's eye view of the series of events and not be affected by them all as well, which is an issue about being affected by the environment that you're observing, you would be able to see that, exactly as they show here, that the spot closest to the event horizon would almost appear as if it was not moving. But for them, time would be moving normally. Same for the people down below. The one thing that I find interesting is that if the TV is functioning, you should probably see it better. I mean, but it's such an abstract concept that they had to find some way for the TV to work and not work at the same time, as far as transmitting a complete image.
But my problem with it is this. Everything that you said is correct. But pertaining to the setting, the space colony was 44 miles in length along those lines?
It was 400 miles long.
400 miles. Because if we're talking about a black hole, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the range of 400 miles is 2 inches.
It's nothing.
Cosmic speaking. So, the whole change in time would look more condensed than what it actually was in the show.
That's correct.
Work exponentially?
Well, he's right. 400 miles is almost nothing on a galactic galactic scale. And that's the problem. But for storytelling, and this is the thing that we run into when talking about science inspired by fiction. The ultimate thing that controls is the story that you want to tell. And I'm a consultant for the Science and Entertainment Exchange out of Hollywood. And, one of the things that they say is you have to understand that the producers are going to tell a certain story and you're there to try to make it make sense. Good luck with that. So that's how you get things like Sharknado and stuff like that.
I don't think you could ever come up with Sharknado and make it anywhere near scientific in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, actually, I know I think I know the scientist who came up with it, and she is pretty brilliant, and so I like.
So she had an actual idea that it could happen.
Yeah, but it was extreme, and it was like I don't if I believe this story, it goes something like this. She was asked surreptitiously. So if hypothetically, if you were to have this phenomenon, how would it work? And she came up with an answer, and somebody said thank you, and then months later she saw Sharknado and went, "Drat, I think I came up with that." So you never know.
Came up with Transformers.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm just saying, where does that even scientifically possible?
No, but Zion is right about 400 miles really isn't a whole lot. But, here's the point. They were trying to illustrate the passage of time, and they were working with that poem for inspiration. So I can see how that all fits together. And yeah, they spent a lot of time with Bill, but like I said, if we didn't know where this was headed, it would have more of an impact, I think.
But I think they had to stay with Bill for a long time, because like I said, it was a year. The doctor was only a few minutes, so if you kept going back and forth, it wouldn't. And yes,
Makes sense.
I know the show is timey-wimey, and that it doesn't have to be linear storytelling. And stop that, Christian. I didn't snore.
Icky, I'm sitting here like Mr. Gumby from Monty Python going, my brain hurts.
Well, you know what, Christian? Maybe your brain should hurt once in a while. Maybe that would help. I don't know what that meant.
I don't know where you're going with that, and that's...
I don't know what that meant.
Really, I
did like the fact that Bill was watching the story unfold on the TV, and several months to raise an eyebrow, and
that was funny.
He's about to give an explanation. This will take a while, and who didn't love the fact that the sonic screwdriver had a pen tip? I mean, how cool is that?
Mine does. The one I have right here in my drawer right here has a pen tip, and it also has one that'll write in invisible ink.
Ooh.
No, it was marketing. It was just like, have your own 12th Doctor sonic screwdriver with a pen. And it writes on anything, too.
Well, Mark, I thought you were going to ask me about bionics.
Well, we are going to talk about bionics when we get a little closer to the sermon. But you know what? I'm going to make this the science segment. This middle segment is the science segment of the show. So let's talk about bionics. Let's talk about the fact that her heart was replaced, and the whole middle part of her body, I guess, by cybernetics, and that the Cybermen weren't Cybermen yet. They were all being experimented on and created, and this truly was the genesis. Yes, it does negate spare parts. And I am
I love that story.
I am a Big Finish fan. I took that as gospel. But I'm all right putting this in instead because I love the episode so much. Yeah, let's talk cybernetics. How close are we to being able to... I mean, I know we can put in an artificial heart, but it didn't seem like they put an artificial heart. It looked like they put in the chest unit.
Right.
They were really cybernizing her.
Well, and also the idea that it wasn't a full conversion because a full conversion was permanent. So it almost implied that whatever she had underneath it wasn't permanent, which is interesting considering the fact that there wasn't, I think as Iggy mentioned, there wasn't a torso left. So I don't know what it was doing other than plugging that hole. But to answer your question currently, there are several different issues involved with bionics. It's not just to have a robotic prosthetic. That's something that has been around for a while, and there's some really great examples of that being actually 3D printed when dealing with children with prosthetics. Anyone who's got kids knows that they grow very, very quickly, and so constantly replacing shoes and clothes and all that sort of stuff. Well, you can imagine just how expensive a prosthetic arm is. To have something that would keep pace with the growth of a child if they have a missing arm, to make it affordable and functional and something that you want to use, because most of the mechanical arms, for example, for many years, very, very heavy. So even if it was functional, you didn't want to use it because it was literally a pain to use. And that's where 3D printed materials make it lighter, more responsive, and stuff like that. And they've been working with ways to use and tap into the nerves that still work so that you can do more than just a open-close pinch move, so that you can actually have fingers that are articulated and be able to play the piano or pick up and cook a meal and, dice things with a knife with fine motor control. All that is starting to happen. But in order for it to be truly bionic, you need a osteo integration. You need to actually have it be implanted into the body. And that is something where we're just now starting to turn that corner into making that link between the human mind and the prosthetic and making that integration work. So where fiction and reality kind of deviated for a while, we're now getting to the point where we're starting to understand how this all works, and we're slowly getting back there to where it will, you're going to have true bionics.
All right. And how much would a $6 million man cost today? I'm just wondering.
I don't think there's enough zeros.
But seriously, my real question was, why doesn't Christian snore when you're talking about science, but when I'm talking about science, he sleeps? It doesn't make sense.
He's interesting, and he's a pro at this.
Someone doesn't want to be a member of our show anymore, it seems
and the cost of the $6 million man would be the equivalent of Lee Major's appearance somewhere. So there you go.
Got that all figured out. Coming to a convention soon that we're going to?
I think so.
I think he's coming to Supercon or something.
Oh my gosh. I actually saw him 3 years ago in Florida at a convention. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really cool because Lee Majors as the Bionic Man was an inspiration for me as a kid with all the surgeries I had to reconstruct my legs.
Right.
So to actually meet him was just really fantastic. And at the end of the day, because I was there as Dr. Geek, I had been presenting and all that stuff, just as you guys do all the time. And we were wrapping up. We had closed up our booth, and Lee Majors said, "Here, let me get the elevator for you." And you're like, "Well, that's cool." You just... The Bionic Man came to my rescue. It was cool.
Wow.
Nice.
Now we just have to get Lindsay Wagner over here to tuck you in at night.
Oh, my God.
Well, that went south real quick. Okay.
Okay. So we've had a lot of science, and I think, we need a break from the science, and we don't want Christian falling asleep because he needs to be part of the end of this review. So what we're going to do, we are going to take a break, but Christian, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, Mark. This portion of Mark Who 42 has been brought to you by the Infinite Mushroom Comic and Game Shop. If you're in the Titusville area, these guys are located at 3550 South Washington Avenue in Titusville, Florida. You can check them out on their Facebook sites. They've got comics, Magic the Gathering, Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons, steampunk, science fiction, horror, fantasy, role-playing games. The list goes on and on and on. And again, if you are out in the Titusville area, check out Infinite Mushroom. Their phone number is 321-567-4893. Again, their phone number is 321-567-4893. And tell them Mark Who 42 sent you.
I always tell people that Mark Who 42 sent me, even if they're not our sponsors. I usually get a free lollipop or something when I do that.
They don't give out lollipops.
They don't give out lollipops?
Yeah, they do. The last time I did it, I went to get a haircut.
Where do you get a lollipop from?
That's all you have to do.
Yeah, a haircut.
You just say you're from Mark Who 42, and you get free lollipops wherever you go. It's amazing.
Anyway.
We'll be right back with more of our review of World Enough in Time here on Mark Who 42 on Krypton Radio.
Don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
The voice of Christian Basil, take 1.
Hi, I'm Christian Basil, and I would like to provide my voice for all your voiceover needs, such as...
Okay, like an announcer.
Like a what?
Like an announcer.
For all your voiceover needs, such as animation, radio, announcements, introductions...
Now an old man.
I can even record voicemail for all the Meshuggahs that call you.
A pirate.
Arr, and it won't cost you a lot of treasure for me services. Arr.
Creepy movie voice.
Just call 407-761-2679. 407-761-2679. Or email voiceofchristianbasil@yahoo.com. Well, how was that?
That's a wrap.
Come to Florida Supercon July 27th to the 30th at the Fort Lauderdale Convention Center. Supercon is more than a Comic-Con. It's 4 days of fun featuring comic book creators, celebrities, cartoon voice actors, cosplayers, wrestlers, and more. Meet superstars from Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Who, Walking Dead, Arrow, Star Trek, Power Rangers, Clerks, WWE Wrestling, hip-hop legend DMC, and more. Get your tickets today at FloridaSupercon.com.
Hello, I'm John St. John, best known as the voice of Duke Nukem, and you're listening to Mark Who 42.
Welcome back to Mark Who 42 here on Krypton Radio. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. We've got Christian Basil, Iggy Matthews, Zion Kiros, and our special guest reviewer for today, Scott C. Vigay, who you may know as Dr. Geek. Hello, Dr. Geek.
Hello.
Do you have a problem with people calling you Doctor Eating a Chicken's Head off?
Well, no. Somebody asked me that a long time ago. They were like, geek, huh? You know, I was actually, talking to a sponsor, and I'm like, yeah, I have to embrace it. I love all things geek culture, and, if you listen to our show, we speak in geek. So to ignore it or to come up with some other name or something like that just didn't seem right. I have to own it.
Well, when I do my job interviews from now on and I talk about the radio show and the Mark Who 42 empire as it is, I'm going to start saying now that if you look up nerd in the dictionary, my picture will be there.
That's right. Yeah. Unless the Nerdist got there first.
So here is our continuing review of World Enough in Time. And so you didn't like my poetry, you got bored with the science, all I can think of is disguises. Let's wear crappy disguises like Anthony Ainley in the 80s. Because that's what we did, and it worked. Had we not known that John Sim was coming back for this show, you may have thought Mr. Razor was just some Lord of the Rings reject, but instead we got John Sim in costume in a really bad looking. I mean, you totally could tell it was him if you knew it was that he was in the episode. But
I knew that he was in an episode, and he still fooled me.
He fooled you? You did not
get
Mr.
He still fooled.
Master?
Oh. I didn't get him until like 5 seconds before he actually pulled off the mask.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
Same.
And honestly, that made the episode a whole lot better, in my opinion.
Yeah. Again, I took the episode as pretending I knew nothing about the episode, even though I did, and that's why I gave it the 10. But, I mean, I would have given it the 12 or the 11 or whatever, but yeah. What did you think about that, doing an Ainley? I mean, yes, Delgado wore costumes, but it was never him as the person in disguise. It was always another actor, and then he takes the mask off, and it's Roger Delgado. Anthony Ainley actually dressed up and got the makeup to look like the character that he was disguised as, and that's what John Sim did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very King Stamens. I love that.
Well, with Delgado, and I mean this as humbly it's portrayed, because we knew it was him. We knew all along it was him. And I think that was the appeal of Castrovalva, is because we knew the Master was walking around. He was in disguise. The Doctor had just regenerated, so he was blitzed out of his mind. But we knew that he was going to do something to them, so I thought it added to the stakes. I already knew that the guy was the Master because he didn't look like anybody else. I'm like, who the hell are you? I mean, he didn't look like the Mendosian. So all right away, I'm like, okay. And plus, he's hanging around Bill, so I'm like, okay, I get to see where this is going, because this particular episode, I don't know if he meant to do it, if it happened inadvertently. And I'm going to pay homage to another series, because this is why I dropped it to a 7, plagiarizing.
Okay.
Real Time. It was basically the playbook of Real Time.
Well, Real Time
to an extent.
Real Time was a BBC production with the help of Big Finish. It was on the BBC website with Colin Baker as the Doctor.
Evelyn Smythe as well.
2000s, yeah.
Right, but it basically took the playbook from that, and I think Real Time was 10 times a better story than World Enough in Time. I think there was a lot more riding on it. Even E.G. Cho, our friend who played one of the characters in it, I liked his character because he had a pivotal role, and I'm wishing there was, if you're going to do this, get away from stuff that... The reason why I didn't like this episode,
don't say you didn't like the episode. You gave it a 7. You liked the episode.
Well, I liked the episode, but the things that didn't make this episode a 10 was that I felt they were, and I know it's a harsh word, but I felt it was just stealing from Real Time and making it its own episode. I felt that if this is going to be the end-all, be-all for Peter, I want the stakes to be much higher. If we had Day of the Doctor, we can do a heck of a lot better for Peter. I still think my idea of the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern thing would have raised the stakes, because now we're involving his past life. We're involving his whole existence. And we've got 2 masters, and I thought that would be great, where we've always had the multi-doctor fighting the one master. What if we had the multi-master fighting one doctor?
Christian, think about it. We've just started with the 2 masters. There's more to this story. The 2 doctors still could be in play.
No, that's what I'm saying. But again, I'm looking at this from a prism of this is by itself.
This was a prologue. This was Act 1. And I know some people were complaining that we're 30 minutes into this and we're still in Act 1. Yeah, we were. That was the point.
No, I get it. But... Yeah. And I'm still.
But I do see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying. There were elements of Real Time that you thought were just ripped off.
Yeah, for folks who don't know about Real Time, I think you can actually find it on YouTube now, or at least you can find it. Real Time is an episode with Colin Baker.
You can buy the audio from Big Finish, I think.
It is the first time ever we see the 6th Doctor dressed in blue with his multicolor outfit. His multicolor outfit turns blue. No explanation as of yet, but aside from that, it's. To me, if this is going to be his swan song, I think the stakes should have been a hell of a lot higher.
I disagree because, in my opinion, the small scale of it kind of fits how it is a nice tone of change of how big the scale was for the past 2 or 3 regenerations and whatnot. It kind of brought me back to how simple and how quick and how meaningless the adventure was when Eccleston regenerated. Yes, it was a Dalek episode, but it was none of the actual boom, blitz, big of all Dalek episode. It was just a simple Dalek episode.
Right.
But I get where in terms of plagiarism, but I feel like they took from it. There's no way getting around it. They clearly looked at it. But they took that, and honestly, I feel like they built it better than the initial story.
Mm-hmm. What, in Real Time? No. Yeah. The Real Time was far superior.
And I have a question. How can you say the stakes weren't high in this episode? Because think about it.
No, I think the stakes could have been higher.
Hold on. I think 2 masters, and then you've got the worst thing possible. Bill is now a Cyberman.
Right, but this is about the Doctor.
She's dead. It's over. Bill's character introduced, gone. That's high stakes.
I'm not saying that the stakes weren't high. I'm saying they could have been a hell of a lot higher, and I was expecting that for this episode, if this is going to be his swan song.
I don't see how killing off Bill isn't the highest stake they could have gone. They did the Earthshock route.
And Odo Chaplet, they're emulating those elements. Yeah, if we can hurt the Doctor with taking the companion, not only that the companion...
promised would never come to harm.
Well, he couldn't. Remember? They were sitting in that bench and he said, I can't guarantee you that.
But before that, in the first episode, when she steps in the TARDIS, and you will never come to harm.
That was, I don't know if that's emulating back to that particular episode, but in this episode, it was...
This episode, I can't protect you, yeah.
Yeah, I can't protect you at all. And I don't know if that was... I think that was a little bit of foreshadowing on the writing. Still, I think the stakes could have been higher. I know what you're saying. And I think it was taken back, but like I said, that kind of stole from Evelyn's element from Real Time. I was just like, why don't we just watch Real Time?
I have to jump in because I have no problem with them being inspired by the Big Finish stories. They're very good. And half the staff that worked on them now works on the TV show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's inevitable that they're going to. And honestly, I'd rather them be inspired by a really good Big Finish story than to have another story about the moon being an egg.
That's fine.
Oh my God.
I get what you're saying, but and please somebody help me with this. It's the 10th Doctor when he wipes his memory with Martha.
Human Nature.
Human Nature. That was the 7th Doctor's story brought in 10th. I'm saying this title should have been called Real Time, and this should have been the modification to bring this up.
But it wasn't
if you're going to go that route, but they didn't pay any homage to it.
It used elements of the story. It wasn't the same story.
This ultimately comes down to a matter of opinion, and does it taste good or does it taste bad? Okay, and
give it to Mikey. He won't eat it. He hates everything. He likes it.
But I mean, both of you have really good perspective, But I mean, I'm going to go ahead and toss something in here in the sense that for me as a new Who watcher, I'm all of like 27 years old. Okay, so. Watched
throw that
old
in our
Who.
face.
72 if you flip the numbers, okay?
Oh, that's better, okay. That makes me feel young.
Yeah, but if make it 72, then I should have watched old Who. I should have grown up with it, but I didn't, though. And for me, there's that little combative nature. Like, if I were to sit down with Christian, I'd kind of go on the biggest eye roller coaster because here he goes again talking about old Who. Why can't you just appreciate what we got right now? And then there's Christian going, yeah, but this is where the new content comes from, so both kind of need to be acknowledged. And for me, it feels like though old Who is a blessing because we have what we have, I feel like it also kind of gets in the way because we I hear a lot of comparing back to, and it takes away from what we just watched. For me, I thought it was a great reveal to see, here comes John Cena and in a very John Cena sort of way, like, yes, John Cena, and I'm like, oh no, because for me, like, that's like the same if you were like to watch Star Wars for the first time and somebody told you Darth Vader's his dad. You're like, man, get out of my face, you ruined it, But if that moment hadn't been ruined, and if that moment was like candid for you, and you're sitting like, Luke, I am your father. You're like, shut the door. What? It's his dad. Did you know it was his dad the whole time? So stuff like that, and I feel like Like, for example, let's say that we took Rogue One and we broke it down based off the older movies. Yes, we have Rogue One because of the older movies, but it should not be broken down because of the old movie. And I feel like perhaps maybe we could just, stop comparing. Shut up, Christian. Okay? What?
If we're talking about in terms of just pure Cyberman stories, I can't say that this is not the best Cyberman story. Simply for one reason. That scene with Bill with the surgical patients and the volume on top.
Oh, that was so sad.
That
was
pain.
That was painful.
Perfectly grasped the ideal concept of what the Cybermen truly are.
Yes.
And the only story that even came remotely close to it was Spare Parts. And I feel like this episode did a better version of what Spare Parts did in terms of showing the pain and the suffering of the Cybermen.
Spare Parts used to be the best. I mean, everyone always talked, when they talked about the origins of the Cybermen, they always related it to Spare Parts. And this episode has basically said Spare Parts never happened. And so you should be upset about that too. But you're not,
fine with that.
because it was a good story.
Well, just because Spare Parts took place on Mondas doesn't mean that this ship isn't happening at the same time.
Well, okay, yeah.
Facts.
Well, they
True
were
story.
on the ship. The ship was traveling. Okay, I see. Okay, all right.
Right?
See, like now, like, my question is
So
the
Spare
planet
Parts
was moving, and they were dying because the planet, and like in this episode, the planet was dying. The oxygen was depleting because of the noxious fumes and stuff, and they had to change themselves. So I guess it could technically both kind of be there.
The way I look at it, the Fifth Doctor is down there somewhere. You know, it's fine.
All right.
My question is, why did Bill have to die? Because the blue guy comes in, and my apologies if it sounds offensive to the blue people, but the blue guy comes in.
People of Earth, we're sorry, except for the Blue Man Group. You can just go hang.
Please. You guys are weird.
Please do.
So, my question is, why did...
We love the Blue Man Group. We here at Mark Who 42, we appreciate their bluish...
Anyway.
Okay, so why did Bill have to die when the blue guy comes in? He's very like, who's human? Who is it? Blah, blah. They're coming here because of you. Blah, blah. Okay, cool. They came in anyways. They took her away in a what seemingly rather peaceful manner. It wasn't, exactly, okay, but the whole point was to kill her, so there wouldn't be a life to save, so a lot of that little bit right there kind of confused me, and maybe it's because I'm dealing, wrangling 2 other children, so I'm kind of like not 100, I'm at 98% as far as attention level goes.
Well, here's the thing, the shot, although catastrophic, wasn't permanent. I mean, it wasn't dead enough. They were still able to convert her with it, so there was something for them to take, and that was the thing. The question becomes really, why wasn't the Cyberman interested in him? I mean, he's a humanoid. Why did it need to be human? In fact, when they asked why humans, almost you expect them to use the term spare parts.
That would have been perfect.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, because that's kind of where they were. That's where I was anticipating them to use it. Why would it have to be human? Why would it have to be compatible? Why does it need to be compatible? Because they need spare parts. Maybe that's the Marvel No Prize. But, when he fired by accident, unfortunately, he left too much alive. I don't know how, but it did, and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's not exactly a great moment.
The brain was still working. Isn't it the brain
Man was
that
frightened.
has to stop, not the heart? The heart can stop the brain. If the brain is still working, you're alive.
This is the same show that has the headless monk, so, I try not to...
exactly.
I try not to think about it too much.
Okay.
I think the science goes out when we start saying, oh, okay, well, you need your heart in your head. Well, apparently, here come the headless monks, and we all see all
it is called science fiction for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if it's science fiction, then there has to be a toehold in reality. When you start doing things like the headless monks, then you start entering the world of fantasy, really, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's good fantasy, and that's great. But it's not science fiction.
That's why Star Wars is not science fiction, folks.
That's right.
It's fantasy.
Yep. Damn right.
Get it right, folks. Star Trek is science. Star Wars is fantasy. Maybe that's why Star Wars is more popular, because people like science fantasy more than science fiction. I don't know.
I think that's why we accepted the Obi-Wan Kenobi's explanation of the Force, and why the addition of the midichlorian was a mistake.
That was terrible.
Total mistake.
Well, they were trying to. The one thing that I've admired about Doctor Who is, like you said, it bases itself in science fiction. You do have to have that tether of reality in science for this to work. You have to have the limitations. Otherwise, it is, I can pull magic out of my rear. One of my favorite scenes of all time of Doctor Who is the scene where the Fourth Doctor is explaining to Leela how the TARDIS works.
Yes,
and that optical image.
Didn't
and even
Nardole try to do that?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did. It kind of went.
That's usually where it falls apart.
But I looked at it and said, you know what? This kind of, in a weird way, kind of makes sense. And who's not to say that science could exist? But now the sonic screwdriver can, magically do everything now. Make faxes, send faxes and stuff. You got to have your limitations for it to work. I mean, you can bend the rules as far as the future of science, but it's got to have its limitations. Otherwise, the sonic screwdriver is no better than a 3.0 tricorder.
I agree.
Everything.
It's all right. The next Doctor is going to have an iPhone, I'm pretty sure.
All right. So we're coming close to the end of the show. Can everyone take a chance and give one final comment about the show that they'd like to bring out of this episode?
Okay, we need to quickly talk about the character development of the Master. Because we're actually getting into that. So my thing is that as far as I can tell with what the Master said, we are dealing with the current model. This is the current Master, right? Missy
is the current model.
Okay, so now we got an aspect of a past Master that's worried about his future, which is honestly a really sick concept. So, pertaining to the next time trailer and whatnot, I feel like this is going to end up along the lines of Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, where the Doctor and Missy are in the rain, this is... it's too late for me, and I can help you and whatnot. And I honestly don't mind it.
I like your explanation there. Killing Joke, that works.
Yeah, my thing is that when it comes to the Masters, specifically because I always love the Big Finish audio named Master, it always developed that whole bond between the Master and the Doctor. And
I love the fact that they had a man crush. He had a man crush for him.
Yes. But when I see this, I feel like there's actual development for the Master, which is something I actually haven't pondered on, because he was always that I'm just evil just because I'm evil and type stuff. Well, we had things like with the Doctor and the Valyard, so like if the Doctor, who's this embodiment of good, can turn evil, why can't the embodiment of evil in turn turn good? And we're seeing that tug and pull, and
Yes,
I just wanted to top on that.
Yes, and I think, there's always been that question about how true was the reform. And this episode and the one before it, I think I'm willing to believe that her reform is genuine. What's going to probably happen in the next episode or two, that much more tragic.
Yeah.
And I do have one question when it comes to the Master and all that. They've been keeping her in the vault for 1,000 years or whatever. And the whole big issue about, can't keep her out and all those other things. Nobody seems to care for the last 3 episodes that she hasn't been in the vault. So is that going to
make a remark that she should be in the vault 2 episodes?
Right, but I mean, who's watching that? The fact that the door's been opened. I mean, is that going to come into play in the next episode?
Ooh,
or did they just
those guys could come back?
Or they just drop that completely? Because I have a feeling that's more likely.
Well, with the fact that Moffat is going, if he doesn't cover it in the next 2 episodes, it's probably gone. And since it looks like there's no time for it, it's gone.
It's gonna be up to Big Finish to answer.
Yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to ponder on is that let's just, for the sake of argument, say that the first Doctor is in the Christmas special, right? Mm-hmm. How would that fit in? Because for all of the canon TV-wise, he's never been by himself for the whole first incarnation. So, like, are they going to bring in Ben and Polly and whatnot?
What they could do is follow the planet to Earth and end it while the Doctor's on the snow base during a 10th planet, and either have the scenes not take place when Ben and Polly are around, or use footage, because they've used footage before.
To answer Zion's question, I think, how everyone's been telling us that this regeneration is going to be different, it's going to be different, it's going to be different. Well, one way to be different is to show the regeneration from the Doctor's point of view. So he's Peter Capaldi regenerating. Who knows what he experiences during that regeneration? The manifestation of the first Doctor could be literally all in his head, and then he eventually morphs into the new persona. So that could be a way to answer your question about where does this fit, because he's never been alone. They could easily do it that way.
Christian, do you have any last words you want to talk about this episode?
I'm being critical about this episode because it is the end run, and there's a lot of things at stake here, especially almost you could say it is the trial of the Time Lord again. The future is at stake. We know there's going to be a new Doctor. I'm very excited about that. I guess knowing the Master as much as I do, I just don't foresee a redemption coming up for Missy. I just never expected that. The Master's a Master the way he or she is, and I never thought, if he was ever going to use a ploy, it would be back in the Roger Delgado days where he goes, yes, I'm good, I'm well behaved and all that stuff, and he's shaking the Doctor's hand. With one hand, he's got a knife behind the Doctor in his back. I'm kind of liking it because I guess if the character is going to evolve, you're probably going to head in this direction. The series has to evolve. It has to change. And I think that's one of the harder things that classic people like me are going to, we're going to have to accept that this is happening. This is going to run another 100 years. We're going to have to reinvent some of the things like the Daleks, like the Centaurans. But we got to embrace what came before and run with it. We can't just automatically assume just to keep new audiences. You can have the stories of the past 50 some odd years and bring them into the new generation so that they can understand and appreciate the way we did back when the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th Doctor and every Doctor that's come along, and keep those stories running. Right now, Doctor Who, and like you said, spare parts kind of gone to the wayside a bit there, and I didn't appreciate that Real Time was kind of like a template for this, and so why not just call the episode Real Time and pay homage to the old one? There's so much that I think I'm a little bit more pure, so I'm going to be more scrutinized with the episodes. I'm going to be more harsh, but I still have a love for it. That's not because I hate Doctor Who. It is because I am keeping the people who are running this, who have a love for it, who have a passion for it, to the fire until the very end. And then when Chris Chibnall takes over.
Iggy?
I am looking forward to, like, if I could have anything else in there, I want the Doctor to be challenged in the sense that this isn't about trying to rescue the companion, or this isn't about trying to, you don't have the help of Missy. You don't have Nigel. You don't have anybody. And after having all of them, removing them somehow, And then that lead up to a regeneration. I'd like to see that, because even though, yes, we did experience the Doctor alone, he was also angry because Jenna Coleman had passed away. So he was alone there for a little bit.
Passed away. You mean Clara? Yeah. Don't get the
by one
don't
heartbeat.
Get the actress with the don't get the actress with the.
Well, I mean, that's why I said Jenna Coleman's character.
Me there. Okay, Clara. Okay.
Yes.
You didn't say her character. You said Joe Moncada passed away, and I was like, wait, I didn't get that
like,
news.
Where did I not see this on my news feed?
That new information literally just dropped.
No. We were in serious trouble.
Now she's going to put a tweet up.
Mark,
Guys, I'm not dead.
Said I was dead. Really exaggerated.
Well, anyway, the Doctor was solo, but it was also that anger and that grief moment. And if there was, if you eliminate the moment of grief and just have it to where it's tragedy, it's impending doom, I have to get my things together in order for these people not to take the fall. And you're alone. You don't have Nardole. You don't have anybody to bounce off of, because I'm getting kind of like a Sherlock Holmes feel regarding the Doctor, because there's a lot of questions like, and that means what? Which is going to lead to what? Exactly. So now I have the answer because I was bouncing off of your brain and your perspective, so I know what to do now. So maybe try to eliminate that a little bit and be solo and bring back the original brilliance that is the Doctor. That's why I love the Doctor, is this guy's brilliant. Holy crap. Here we are seeing all this master plan coming together, and he just solved it. Genius. Let's go. And then, tune into the next episode. So I don't know. That's what I would like to see. As far as this season and this episode in particular, I'm pleased. I enjoy it. And I really enjoyed the John Sims. It was great. It was awesome.
Okay. Scott, any final thoughts about this episode?
Well, I think that taken together with the next one, it will be a much more complete story, and I think some of the issues that Christian brought up probably will be addressed. I mean, I hope. And what is interesting, I think, with the exception of the Monk trilogy, this has been the strongest season I've seen in a long time. And it's really nice, and it's great to see Peter Capaldi being treated correctly, I think, and given stuff that really works with him. Sorry that it took so long to figure that out.
Bye-bye. He's going bye-bye, isn't he?
Yep. Yeah, but if they're going to leave, then this is a great episode, because he was a fan of the Third Doctor, so they've had episodes that tie his Doctor directly to the Third Doctor, like the one with Centauri that shows up, and this was his favorite version of the Cybermen. So I think that it works, and I think because of those fan elements of the stories that work for him, he's responding to them even more fun. I mean, he's literally going out with a bang.
Yeah. My final thoughts on this episode are, I gave this episode a 10, said it was the best episode for a long time. My only fear is that can they continue in the next 2 episodes keeping me at the 10 level? Yes. This story needs to work. I'm sure it will, but it really needs to, so I'm hoping and praying that we are going to have a good middle and conclusion to this story.
Just don't be hell-bent. Just don't be hell-bent. Please don't be hell-bent.
Or I'll have to be heaven sent, if you are. Okay. Christian, tell us about our conventions that are coming up.
Don't forget, gang, this weekend at the Florida Space Coast Convention Center, located at the Holiday Inn Express Resort. Mark and I will be at Icon 3. It's just a few days away. It is run by Terrence Baker, who is the comic artist and CEO of the ICC Productions. We're going to have a lot of talented people, cosplayers, authors. Cause a Commotion will be there. We're going to be joined by Amelia Poole, one of our sponsors at Icon as well. She'll have a booth out there. You name it. There's going to be a ton of stuff to do and tons of people to meet. And it's going to take place this weekend at the Space Coast Convention Center, located at the Holiday Inn Express, this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The address is 301 Tucker Lane, Cocoa, Florida, 32926. Check it out. All these links that we have at our conventions are located on marku42.net. And the very, very big one located at the Fort Lauderdale Convention Center. Practically the whole team's going to be there. Florida Supercon, July 27th through the 30th. Get your tickets right now. Again, these links are all located on marku42.net. You can click and pick up your tickets and get information. But the big information as far as Whovians are concerned, Karen Gillan, John Barrowman, and Peter Capaldi will be there. You definitely want to be there. It's taking place again at the Fort Lauderdale Convention Center. Get your tickets now, get your hotels now, get everything squared away. The Mark Who 42 booth will be at both of these conventions. And stay tuned to Mark Who 42 on our Twitter feed and as well as our Facebook, because there is one more event coming up in the middle of July. We're not going to be doing much of anything. We're probably going to be attendees to it, but I'll give you more information as it comes our way. But just be on the lookout for our Facebook and our Twitter site for more information about a new Whovian thing that's taking place here in Orlando coming up in mid-July. So that's all.
And I know we can't talk about it, so I won't, but I am hoping that we have some news in the very near future for a very, very special thing. Right, Christian?
Well, for the folks who've been asking if we're going to visit them out of state, be on the lookout for Mark Who 42.
Be on the lookout.
Be on the lookout. We are in final talks. We're hoping by the time this episode airs, we should know, and we should be promoting it very shortly. But for those folks who are maybe outside of Florida and saying, why don't you come to us? Well, we think we are. So stay tuned for that.
All right. I want to say thank you all for listening to our review. We had a great time doing it. I'd like to thank especially to Scott Vigay for coming on the show. Thank you, Scott.
Oh, it was my absolute honor. Thank you so much, everybody.
I had a great time with you at Time Lord Fest. We did that Historicals on Doctor Who panel, and we were the judges of the costume contest, literally.
Yeah. No, we had a great time at Time Lord Fest, and you and I worked really well together, and I love the fact that we spontaneously created other panels when we needed to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the free time that we just started having that panel. Yeah, I did like that. That was cool. All right. Iggy, how's the little one? The new little one.
Oh, she is a ravenous little tiny beast, I'll tell you what, but she's very healthy and very adorable. Very adorable. I am tired all of the time.
Zion, I bet you can't wait for Supercon.
I cannot wait.
He sounds like a Cyberman there.
Right, you are, Kenneth.
Okay, so until next time, I'm going to give, for one of the last times, that temporary sign-off movie sign! Well, it's really your moment of zen. We're going to play the audio of the next episode of Doctor Who, the final episode of the series, and then we'll have to stop doing that, and I'll have to actually, next week, give my real new sign-off, won't I, Christian? Because I promised.
Yeah, you better.
I have a new sign-off.
I was hoping you had your new sign-on like 5 episodes.
I have a new sign-off. It's going to come next time. So until then, enjoy the trailer, and we will talk to you next week here on Mark Who 42.
The whole city is a machine to turn people into Cybermen. What do you think? It's exciting, isn't it?
You know the stories. There's only ever been one way to stop that many Cybermen. Me. Stand with me.
Mark Who 42 is written and presented by Mark Baumgarten, Christian Basil, Patty Hawkins, Iggy Matthews, and Zion Kiros. This episode was edited, directed, and produced by Mark Baumgarten and co-produced by Christian Basil. Visit markwho42.net, where you can register and become part of the Whoniverse Army. We can be contacted by email at mark@markwho42, subject line, ? If you'd like a chance to be a guest on our radio show, send an email to our media relations director, Christian Basil, at markwho42media@yahoo.com. You can have Mark Who 42 entertain at your next event or convention. Go to heroesonhand.com/markwho42. Space Coast Comics is a free monthly magazine found in over 120 locations currently throughout Brevard County, parts of Osceola, Volusia, and Indian River County in Florida, and available in Chicago. Follow them on Facebook to learn more. Doctor Who and its properties are owned by the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. This show is owned and copyrighted by Mark Baumgarten, 2017. This is Krypton Radio.